Okay, Nissan Bluebird Sylphy with a crank no start. This is an intermittent fault in this one. So what we found when it was dying, we had no injector pulse, and we also had no communication with the engine ECU. So straight away that's pointing to the computer. Okay, our power supply for the computer on these, so there's basically 3 sections to the plugs. Right on that rear one at the top you'll find a white wire with a red trace. Okay, and it comes back to this one here. Okay, so what we want to know is if we're losing power going to the ECU. Alright, unfortunately we haven't been able to test that while this one is faulting, but so this is the relay here. So you've got this big plug with green and red wires, 1 relay, 2 relay, 3rd relay up. Okay, that one I've taken out. That is the relay for the ECU. So we've got that out at the moment, and what I'm going to do, because when we auto scanned before, we had CAN bus codes in a lot of the other computer systems. So I'm about to run an auto scan to see if we get that back with this removed. Okay, so if this is faulting you can test it. So you want to test for continuity between the larger pins while applying power across the smaller pins. Okay, because that's the bigger current that's going to be switched and smaller current to switch it. But our one is working at the moment, but our car also runs at the moment, and we haven't been able to get it to die again, to charge that a bit. But we will, we are going to auto scan this to see if we get those same codes again, and then what we're thinking is that we'll just replace this relay for the sake of what it's worth, and then give it back to the customer. But the other thing to note is when this relay is out, if I turn the ignition to on, I get the fan running all the time. Okay, and when it was faulting it was doing the same thing, just ran the fan all the time. So that's an indication that we're losing power through that relay. Okay, so there could still be a fault in the ECU itself, but this is definitely the simpler place to start, especially if yours is faulting all the time. You can then test that relay, and if it's not switching, bingo. Cool, so that's just in by the battery. That panel sits in that way up, so you just got to unclip it and pull it up to get at the back side of it. You will also have a fuse if you have a problem all the time. You'll have an ECU fuse, so check all your fuses first. Okay, just a note too, when you're testing for power, okay, you need to use an LED test light. Okay, when you're testing for power on anything that goes anywhere near an ECU, you need to use an LED test light. These ones are good because they actually read out the voltage to you as well. But don't use an old school filament light when you're tapping into a computer, okay, because too much current draw, you can upset things inside the computer. Okay, so with that relay pulled out now, I'm getting all the same codes in here as I had when it was faulting, and getting a lot of this CAN communication, which indicates again that we have got an ECU fault. Okay, so initially of course everything pointed in that direction. Unfortunately I've driven this thing and just haven't been able to get it to die again, so that I can confirm that we're not getting power to the ECU. But yeah, all CAN communication. And that's with that ECU relay removed. So next step will be to find one of these and get it in the unit out, which is basically just taking all the plugs out. so that's where those two main wires were coming in, the green and red. So 1, 2, 3 up from that there is our ECU relay. This one is headlights. Just happens to be the other one, we know what it is. So that's the headlight relay there. I'm not sure what the other ones are. It's very hard to find information on these Sylphys. But just I know from going through when I was finding out which one was the ECU one, I know that was headlights. Cool, so part number 2, because people always ask, that is the part number that we've used. So they are a bit tight in there because they are slightly more broad, but there's just little lugs on the side, each side of the channels they fit into, so we just used our Dremel just to knock those little lugs off, and just put a bit of silicone spray on the edge of the relay itself to help it slide in without getting it on the pins. And that's our new one in there, so we'll plug it back up and send it away. Okay, so this is ignition on with that relay back in, and you can see the fan's gone off straight away. Just clearing all our fault codes, which are now all clearing out of there. And if we go back to engine now, we will be able to communicate with it, which we couldn't before with that out. Okay, that is our diagnosis of a Nissan Bluebird Sylphy with a crank no start situation. Okay, so if you have no comms with the engine ECU and you have no injector pulse, then check out this relay and give that a test. Okay, I hope that has helped you out today. Don't forget to click a like and subscribe for more real tips from real mechanics.